Hey class, how are you guys doing today? We are almost through the week. Woohoo! So, I think today I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to give you guys a little time to catch up, right? I want to go over your guys' projects because I want to have the feedback in for you so that you guys are able to start working on it for when our first revision due date is, which let me pull up here real quick. I think that, one second, guys. Let me do something else. You know, we've gone over the bouncing balls and we've gone over the typography and motion project, right? But I haven't reviewed your surreal versus real projects, and I also haven't had a chance to review your um the principles of motion design, the 2D motion projects. And so today I kind of want to I'm going to take the time to go through those today. So it's really going to be a review of your past projects, and then we're also going to go through those participation questions, and if we have time, we'll get back to working on that squash and stretch dice that we did on Tuesday. There are a couple things that I noticed that one thing I did, I'll mention this right now, but I'll change it later. I opened the project today and realized that I wrote impact and not squash. So we're going to change that around, right? And then there's a couple things I want to do different in that project for you guys. And so you have the opportunity right now to take the feedback that I give you today and to implement it into your past assignments to get that done early if you're all caught up with everything right now. To go ahead and get that that feedback that I give you done early so that you guys have a little bit of time. You know, you guys can enjoy your time over spring break because I'm going to give you that feedback before spring break, which is, let me see here, spring break is down, let me see real quick. Get this turned on. Oop, no, spring break is the 13th through the 19th, right? And so we are, where are we at? Today is the 16th. Yeah, let me see here. So today we're going to do a review. Next Tuesday and Thursday, we're going to go over the principles of motion design for Cinema 4D. I'll touch base on that again. We'll go through like participation grades, right? So we'll continue this next week. The following week, the 28th and the 2nd of February, we're going to do a 3-scene animation where we're going to work in After Effects and we are going to animate some butterflies. And we're going to composite 3 different scenes together to create kind of like a very short story. And then the 7th and the 9th, we'll go ahead and go over those projects because I want you guys to have the opportunity to do that butterfly project before the Artists of Promise, which is after spring break, right? The deadline for that is after spring break. Hey, Sarah, see you in the chat. My mod squad's here. And so I want to be able to get you guys, you know, do some revision rounds and feedback the week of the 7th through the 9th. So I'm going to just kind of reorganizing the structure of the class right now. But this is a great opportunity for you guys to get this feedback, start on that feedback right away so that you don't have a bunch of work to work on over spring break, right? That's my goal, is to not have you guys doing a bunch of stuff while you guys are off, because I know there's going to be some of you probably traveling and doing some stuff, and you guys, you know, you work hard, so you need to take breaks. Breaks are important, right? And so let's just start off today going through those participation questions that were due yesterday. Again, video format, right? Like I don't want to see things sent into me any other format. They have to be MP4, video format, recording yourself, asking the question on screen that way. And you guys, if you've missed more than 2 right now, you guys are really going to want to get on that because it is important to, that's how I'm taking attendance. So we want to make sure that we're keeping up with that kind of stuff, right? Let me close this one. I don't think it's there. I have it in right here under my downloads. Let's extract these. All right, Sarah, so you will just let me know, right, if it gets too loud in the chat. I don't want to blow your eardrums out anymore. So just make me aware and I'll tap it down real quick for you, okay? Let me open this up and exactly what I was saying. Manny, I need you to turn these in video format, okay? So let's go right to Zoe's.
Hello. So my question for this week is asking about the After Effects, like pre-rendering or whatever. I just found that my computer was just so slow, when I'm trying to see what my animation looked like. So I feel like when I scrub through, it's a better, um, just like depiction of what it actually looks like. But if I just hit play, it's kind of slow and laggy and just looks weird. And I don't know if it's a problem that I can fix.
It is so I'll explain it like this, right? When you're playing things back through your timeline in After Effects, it is saving that information um in some folder tucked away, right? Like deep in the folder of like the program files, right? And so what it does is it saves that so that it knows like, okay, well, I've seen this before. Let me play it back over. It is called a cache. Now, you want to, what will happen is sometimes you'll get a warning that says your media cache is full and that your render, like you're reaching your max, right? Because there's a certain amount of gigabytes that After Effects actually designates to. Oh, that's okay, because I'm not going through these. That After Effects designates to um, just your projects in general. And so the way you clear that out, right? There's a couple ways. This is the first thing I want to show you guys because this is going to be something that you run into later on down the road. And I try and clear. It's called clearing your cache. And I try and do this at least once every couple of weeks, right? Or at least once a week, even if I remember to do it. So you go up here to File, and then I believe it's File. Let me just drop that down. Nope. Go to Edit, and then to Purge. Ooh, I keep hitting Escape instead. My finger's not on the right button. So under Edit, and then Purge right here. And then when you go there, it's going to say Clear all files, all memory and disk cache. You're just going to click on that, and it'll bring up this warning right here. Are you sure that you want to delete all files, 156 gigs from my disk cache? Now my computer has a large, I have like 3 terabytes or 4 terabytes of SSD space on my hard drive. So mine's able to hold a lot. Your guys's will probably be more closer to like 20, if that even. So you're going to want to hit okay, clearing the disk cache just like clears out all those playback files that it's just saving. It's not going to ruin anything in your project. It's not going to do anything to the stuff that you've done previously or mess up your program. It's just going to clear out like the memory, right? That it's saving to replay that over and over. And so that is one thing you guys want to get used to and kind of get in the habit of doing throughout your career working in After Effects. Another thing, and this is the reason the playback is happening slowly for you and kind of chunky, you're like chugging along, right? Is because after a while, especially depending on your computer, it might not be able to in real time play that feedback live, right? It might have a little bit of trouble because of the motion blur that you have on your project, or the echoes, right? Any kind of effects, things when you start stacking stuff onto each other and onto layers and start moving things, right? It's more intense on your computer. And so what happens then is when you try and play it back, it just chugs along because it's trying to essentially create that image to play back for you live. And so what you want to do is right here, let me do the arrow. It says full. You can change that to different settings, right? Let me move my camera here. Move my face out of the way. And um you can select half settings, third, or quarter, right? What that does is it just drops down your resolution just in the viewport, right? It doesn't drop down the resolution of your composition. It just drops down the resolution of what you're seeing at that moment. And you can drop it. I recommend dropping it at least half at first. And then if that doesn't work, drop it down to a quarter. And so it'll look pixelated. It might not look as pretty or as refined, but it's just dropping down that resolution so that it's not as intense of a process on your computer. And so you'll just want to view it in that way. And then when you go to render it, it's not going to change anything about when you go to render your stuff in Media Encoder. Even if it says half or third, it'll still render at your full resolution. So, get in the habit of doing that. You can put it on auto if you want, but I like to just change it as needed. And then that just makes it play smoother. Like right now, if I play it, it's pretty smooth. But let's see if I drop it down to full deal for mine. My computer's pretty fast, so. But bring it up to full. No, mine doesn't have as big of an issue with it, but that's because I have a beast of a computer. And so, and you guys will get there eventually, right? You guys will get to a point where you're able to purchase or build your own PC, which is able to handle this kind of work a lot easier. But right now, that's what I suggest doing is either drop down the resolution of your viewport, or and at the same time clearing out that cache, that media cache. So good question though. That's something that I think a lot of you probably will start, especially when we start to add more and more um, effects onto things and start adding more. Um, when you get the motion blur and you're having heavier files with more animations in it, you're going to get that issue. And so that's a good one. Thank you for asking that. And here we have Lee.
Hi, Miss Vicara. So, taking a look at the next assignment we're working on, this principle of motion design, I was looking at the video and the three scenes, and I'm just curious: does number three have to be does it have to be a dice, or is that just an example of what it could be, since that seems to be the simplest one?
Yeah, I mean, like that's how we have it set up for you guys because you haven't started modeling yet. And so the dice is just the easiest one for you guys to do. If you're taking a modeling class and you can do something else with the box, but like the dice is pretty standard. So that's what I really want to see in your squash and stretch, specifically with the dice, right? It's the parameters that are set up for the project, and it's just easier for you guys because um squashing and stretching objects that are asymmetrical or um are more organic in shape, right? It's harder to do. So we're learning the basics of how to do the squash and stretch inside of Cinema 4D. So I prefer that you use the dice, please. So good question, though. Thank you, Lee. And here we have Sarah in the chat. Let me get ready to drop that down.
Okay, so my question today is regarding like textures and stuff. So, for example,
Your little guys in there is
I
fun.
got this Velociraptor here, but I thought he looked a little bit like smooth, and I didn't really think that I wanted him to look a little bit more cool. So I tried. Hold on. So I tried taking the texture, and like it worked. Like I took it, dragged it onto him, and it worked, and everything was good. And it did that, right? And like let's just say I did what I did the other day, which was make it like nice and scaly texture, right? But when I tried to change the color, because I wanted him to be green, obviously. When I tried to change the color wouldn't change. So is that like something to do with the material itself? Like, is it just made to be that color forever? Also, certain things like wouldn't work when I tried to put a texture on them. So like, for example, the gold. If I go to the gold real quick, and I wanted to make the toilet gold, so I like drug it onto like each part of the toilet, like because it looks like it's like a bunch of groups, right? So I took it and I dragged it onto there. I even like replaced it, and it just would not change. The texture wouldn't change even though I like replaced the previous texture that was on it. Like it just wouldn't change. So I was wondering, what's that all about?
Yeah, materials are a pain, right? They you learn really quickly that that was something that I learned very quickly is that materials are like a beast of a thing to mess around with, and when it comes to like changing color of stuff, things can be funny, right? There's different ways to change colors of objects inside of Cinema 4D, just kind of depending on what it is. So I'm going to look up, I think it was a Velociraptor, right? I think it's this one. Let me drop that in here. All right, and then let's zoom in. Oh, wrong. I'm just opening all sorts of stuff. Okay. Zoom in on him. Move around. There we go. Let me just fix my boom arm here, and then it's not in front of my keyboard. And let's add this. I think you had a leather texture, wasn't it? This one right here. Okay. So the first thing I want to do, right, is because this is in, well, you did it properly, right? Because you see that the texture is already right here on the Velociraptor to just kind of color the entire thing. And then these, if you were to drop in, these are parts of the model. These little sections here are parts of the model that are actually modeled separately and then just kind of put into a null. And then the null is what contains, all of the body parts, and that's what also contains the texture on it. So I'm going to take this texture and I will drag it onto that Velociraptor null, right? Because that's where you wanted to put it. And let's see it update there. Now, let me bring myself down here. Actually, I'm going to hide the camera for you so you can see what I'm talking about. There we go. And so we have the texture. I'm not going to change the tiling on it or anything like that. But the first thing that you want to do is down here in the materials, you're going to select that material. And let me see, double click it. There we go. And you would think, hey, my fingers are going crazy. Here we go. You would think that you would put it into the color like tab under there, right? And for some reason, it doesn't allow you to do that. It just kind of like tints it more than anything. And I think it's because it's on the texture, right? So if I click into the texture, it's got like a bump map on it is what they call it. And it's got the noise on there. Let me see. Let me try a couple things and see if it works for you, because because there's a couple different places that you can put color in. Let me see if it would be in the reflectance. Let's try this. Under the reflectance layer or tab. There we go. That works. And if I'm going to hit up there, Control R to like render it out, have to put a light in there. Just put like a target light, just a regular light. Looking it down on him. We move in. Ooh, that light is wrong spot. Wrong spot. There we go. Just move it around here. Put the target on him. Let's see if it works without me having to set up a scene and everything. No, I would have to set up an entire scene, but that is how, either way, you change the color inside of the reflectance. And let me know if it still works like that, or if you still end up having issues where let me see here, where the light isn't showing. See if you can update that within the next day or two, Sarah, and just kind of let me know by next class if that actually worked for you, or if you can do that now. And then if you hit Control R to like do a render preview, if it shows that for you, or if it's giving you kind of that that black look as well. Because if it is, then maybe under color texture, let's see if we can change it to color and do it that way as well. So there's two different ways, right? You can change it into I think it's more of the color and less in the reflectance of it. Let's hit that. Yeah, okay, that's how you're going to do it. So not in the reflectance, but under the color, under the texture tab right there, it had prior it had something called, I think it was I don't know if it said Fresnel or if it said, let me hit Control Z real quick and go back. Fusion, right? You don't want it to say Fusion. You want it to, you'll click on this little drop down thing there, and then you'll do color, right? And then it'll still have the texture in there, but it will, but that way you can actually update the color. Let me see if you can update the color here, if it's going to just tint it. Yeah, don't update the color in the color tab there. You're going to want to double click this and then update the color in here. And the reason being is because this is just kind of like, for some reason, this just tints it. It is very weird that there's like several different places that you can add color into your objects. You know, I think it comes into play when you're modeling things that are complex, right? Like if you have taken art classes and you've learned about skin tones, right? There's underlying colors, right? You have the color of you know, of when the light goes through, because your skin isn't completely opaque, right? And so the light kind of penetrates through down your skin a couple layers, and um it reflects differently, right? Your skin, there's like all skin based tones, right? You can have an olive based tone or yellow tone or um red tones to your skin. And so that's kind of why there's different options of places to put colors. So the first thing I would always try and do is, when it comes to like weird textures or something that you're using from the material um, asset browser, right, is to go into undercolor here, go into either the texture right here, or then go into reflectance up here and try it that way. And then just make sure you're doing that render preview to see if it works properly or not. And then the other question you had was about the toilet. Let me see. Let me throw that toilet in there. Let's delete this. Find a toilet. It might have to do with the, I think it's this one. Looks close enough, right? Let's see here. If I drop this down, just try and add that gold material. A golden throne, right? I think that's funny. Let's just try and drop it over the subdivision layer, and it doesn't work, right? Even if I hit to do a render preview, you still can't see it. So what I want to do then, let's drag it down here, and it worked on this one. Maybe, am I using the same model that you were using, Sarah? Because if it's the same model, I want to make sure that it is the same one. But either way, instead of dropping it on the group or on the toilet subdivision surface, I dropped it on the seat cover. I'm pretty sure you did that, though. I'm pretty sure I saw that happen. Let's try down here, right? Because here's something. This is showing, this little triangle here shows that there's like a specific selection that was made where they put this this tone on. Let me see if I drop it there. No, it seems to work there as well. So maybe it's just the specific model that you have. I would try maybe just swapping out the toilet model that you use and then putting it on those specific. I used this one right here. This one. I don't know if you use this one. Let's try that. Let me throw that in there and see if it does the same thing. Move that over. The nice thing, right, is that I already brought that gold texture into my my project. And so instead of going back into the asset panel and looking for that gold texture again, I am just going to go up here to my material panel, and it's already in here for me. So I'm just going to take this one. I'm going to close it down. That's okay. Sometimes things can happen funny. Let me just go down here, unfurl this again. And so it looks set up the same way. If I just drag this and drop it, there we go. This might be a reason. It might be just the model that you're using for some reason isn't allowing it, right? Because this should be, it should work on the seat. Let's, it looks like because it is mapped to a specific selection. Let us go into like the surface mode. Double click on this. All right. So it looks like it is selecting most of the base, right? Or it's actually the selections made over here, these little orange selections right there. So then if I drop this onto that, then let's hit render preview. There we go. That worked. And so when you see this little when you see this little triangle, guys, this means that at some point, like when the model was being made, they selected specific polygons in order to texture those specific things differently than other selections, right? It's like you know, they're just, it's different facets of the actual toilet. And so I would try that. I would try going this way. This is going to be more work. If you don't want to do that work, I would just select this toilet or a different toilet model there. If you know, if you have the option, if anyone else is running to that same problem, you know, let me know. And also, let's see here. Let's go back a couple steps and just make sure that that when we hit the render preview, let's throw it onto the toilet here. If I hit render, yeah, it still renders it. If I drop it down here, Nope. And then let's see if I just drop it here and hit it again. There you go. Yeah, so you don't even have to select the selection there. You just have to drop it in the specific ones there. And it might not show up in your preview window. It's going to show up when you like actually render it out. So there you go. Solution to that. Let me close this and we will go on to our next question. Kaylee.
Hi, so my question this week is basically wondering if there's a 2D hand-drawn animation course that we could take in the future. I know we covered a little bit in this class, but I wasn't sure if there was like a specific one that focuses all on it, like how there's one specifically for 3D modeling. Just because I want to learn all the different variations of animation before I figure out which one I kind of want to go into for a career.
As of right now, I don't believe that we offer a 2D hand-drawn animation class. I know that I'm an adjunct instructor, but Casey is the one that runs like all of the animation courses, and uh his time is limited, right? Because he's got all of these classes that he's teaching, and no one to really be able to help him ease that workload, right? So as of right now, there is not a 2D hand-drawn animation course offered at GCC. Will there be in the future? Possibly, I'm not quite sure. But the best thing about specifically learning the fundamentals of animation, right, is when you start to learn timing and you learn about easing your motion and how to use weight and essentially how to like accentuate things and exaggerate stuff. You can apply that still, those same techniques to hand-drawn animation, right? And then I also really recommend that you guys get this book if you are more interested in hand-drawn animation, which I know a lot of you guys are. Excuse me, sorry. Let me see. The Animator's Survival Kit. In fact, let's see if it shows previews here in Amazon. Like if I click on it, there's a look inside tab. Hold on one second. And this gives you, let me see if I scroll down. See, it talks about the same things that we learn in class, right? Timing and spacing. We're learning that kind of stuff right now. This one talks about a little bit more about charts and in-betweens, right? Because in-betweens in the thing about After Effects and Cinema 4D is these programs automate those in-betweens for you. You don't have to worry about making them on your own because the computer analyzes kind of what you're doing in general and where you're moving and how you're moving your objects inside the program, and then it automates all of the in-between frames, right? So that you don't have to do all that work. It's a lot faster. And so this one's going to talk more about that. It's going to talk about your breakdowns. Like, I mean, there's a lot of different information in this one specifically about hand-drawn animation. And then it breaks it down, right? Like creating, and then it breaks it down into the 12 principles of animation, right? Here we have flexibility, you showing weight, anticipation, different takes, timing, working out things. This is going to be syncing with, like it says, syncing with sound. We're going to do a little bit of, we're going to start adding audio into our files and stuff here. And like, I don't know, we actually should be doing it with the Monarch. We're going to be doing it coming up in a couple weeks. So, you know, and acting and things like that. So if you guys want to learn more about hand-drawn animation in particular, which is also going to apply to the animation that you're doing in After Effects and the animation that you're doing in Cinema 4D, I definitely recommend getting this book, right? I believe that I have, let me see if I can link this. into copy link. And I'll just put it in our Slack channel right now for you guys. And this way, Kaylee and the rest of class, you guys can go through here and look at this book or possibly purchase it, you know. I would purchase if they have a spiral bound option. I would do that because the book is kind of thick. It's a bigger book like this, so hardcover I would not recommend. I feel like it'd be hard to keep that book open and to be able to see. But yeah, let me see here. All right, you guys, the link is in our Slack channel, right? There we go. All right, let's go to the next question. Here we have Lee.
Hello. I just want to say this week has been kind of rough for me. I don't know. I've been looking at all the videos. I just, the work. I need to start
Sorry.
doing that and uphold myself to better time management again. But I have like done some self-study with animation stuff to get myself, because I feel like I'm a bit underprepared for this class just because I have I did animation high school, but that was like 2 years ago, so I don't quite remember what we did or like how we did stuff. And I remember just having like a hard time doing it just because that's also when I realized that I didn't think I wanted to be an animator, but I also just like doing it for fun. But I would say my question is there like a person that you would recommend like watching, like maybe on YouTube or like Skillshare? I know we have like LinkedIn learnings and stuff, like LinkedIn videos, but I always, it's always nice to take out time out of your day and look at other
Yeah.
people that are in the same craft as you and see how they do.
Yeah, there are actually two animators who I very much enjoy watching. Um, one of them is Jake in Motion. He is on Skillshare as well. He offers his animation courses on Skillshare are great. He in fact goes through a bunch of different things. Let me see here. At one point he goes through here right here he goes through every single effect that there is in After Effects, and he talks about what they do and how to use them and stuff like that. It is very long, um because there are a lot of different things to do with inside of After Effects and using these effects that are within the software. Now, I will say this though, like his stuff is going to be um more advanced. And so the biggest thing is you really want to know how to, like, the basics of animation, right? And really how to use After Effects. But he's a good one to watch in tandem with like any of your classes. Another animator that is awesome is Ben Marriott, and he is an animator based in Australia. And two T's there. Oh, yeah, there he is. And he does some great work, and he goes over people's portfolios and stuff, and he's got a really nice style. We are going to be working soon on updating like our projects and stuff within the classes at GCC. But the projects that we have right now are great for you to learn um basic the basics of animation and just your foundations, right? Because like I said earlier in class, in the beginning of when we started, right, that the foundations of animation are the most important. You don't want to build a house without a foundation, or else you don't have sturdy legs to walk on, right? You go off and you go into um your career, into the working world, and you get a job following tutorial after following a bunch of tutorials, right? But then they ask you to do a bunch of stuff. And if you don't know how to do it, if you don't know the basics, then that can be an issue. So, if you're still struggling in class, I would definitely reach out to me or reach out to Belle. We'll set something up with you guys and we can talk and just have a conversation. And then, just follow these animators and motion designers, um, watch their different tutorials and learn different techniques and different styles. And, they're working in the industry as well. So it's always good to, you know, stay on top of trends and also to stay relevant within the animation and motion design community, right? And we work together. We all, like, everyone talks to each other. Everyone's really friendly in this career field, which is nice. And people are really willing to offer up a lot of information. So I definitely, those are great options for you guys to go through and start, watching those kind of videos. Let me see something here. I believe that my display is kind of off. Let me. It works there. All right. So we are going to go to Nolan.
So my question for this week is, when I was doing this assignment and we were doing the ball on the left, I couldn't control click because every time I did, it would just do that. And even if I selected in any way, because I had it the right way, yeah, it wouldn't let me do it. So if there's something I was doing wrong, yeah.
Yeah, so you want to not control click, right? That's to change the Bezier handles. You just drag click to select specifically let's do the heavy ball, right? Let's go down here and I will show you the ellipse path, right? Right click, convert to Bezier path. And then you have your handles, right? You just drag and select, and then you get these Bezier handles there, and that's what you to break them. Hold on. Let me go back again, I think. Make sure that you're actually in this tool. You can convert to vertex tool right here. I've got it selected. And then you can control that differently. That is this tool up here underneath the pen tool. If you hold down and click this one, it'll look like the pen, right? Like a standard pen that you see in like a calligraphy pen. Default is that. You can select that as well, right? If you have the pen tool selected, you can also grab this Bezier handle, and I think it's Alt. You hold down Alt and you can click and drag. If you have the selection tool grabbed, you can also hold down Alt. I think, let me see here. Click it, Alt. But the order matters in how you select it. So let me go through that again so it's a little bit more clear. We have the path right here. I'm gonna just select that so you guys can see the different vertexes. I'm gonna zoom in here so you can really see it. All right, we have vertex, 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 so on. You drag and select, and then you click, hold down Alt, and then you move. Or what you can do is you grabbed it and select, right? You can if you hit G, that brings up your pen tool and your cursor will change. And then you can just hold down Alt, grab this, and then you can move it that way. Notice that when I hold down Alt, it changes what the cursor looks like, right? So it's changing it to like a selection tool that way. So there's just two different ways to do it. When you just select it, the path, and hold down Control, it's not going to work for you. So yeah, so hopefully that works. It should work. Let me know if you're still getting some kind of issues with it, and it might be best to like start drawing that ball over again, but there we go. And let's go to Janelle's question.
Hello, my question for this week is how do I get the impact to fade out and not just stop like that? Yeah, thank you.
So you want the impact, the scene is what I'm assuming you want to fade out, correct? Let me see here. There's a couple different ways you can do that. Let me open up After Effects. Let's go to our main one here, what I'll do is this. I will take this impact scene. I'm gonna pre-compose everything. Shift Control C to auto pre-compose. This one, it will pop up this right away. Because I'm on dual monitors, it pops it up on my other screen. But you'll retitle it, right? And then so like impact scene pre-comp. I like to write pre-comp on there. Make sure that move all attributes to the new composition is on. And then if you want it to just automatically open that composition, you'll just click that and it automatically opens it, right? You don't have to have that on, but and then we have our pre-comp here. And so let's say that we put this into our main composition. Let's go to our main one. And actually, let me pre-comp this stuff right here. Shift Control C, title pre-comp. I don't need it to reopen. I'm not going to hit open new composition because I'm not worried about that. I want it to just be in here. And then this one, we'll just put you don't have to do that, right? I should have just done it in the main composition anyways, so you don't have to make a pre-comp of your impact one. You can just take the main impact, where is it? Composition, and then drag it into here. And then let me change the timing. Control K will bring up your composition settings. And let me just change this to, 24 is okay. What I'll do is I will move to the 8 seconds. And I will just shorten this composition by hitting Alt end bracket. And then I'm just going to hold down Shift and drag this until it snaps right there. So we got this one, and then we can move to a few keyframes in. Let's see if that one works. I believe you were trying to use the fade in.
Hello, my question for this week is how do I get the impact to fade out and not just stop like that? Yeah, thank you. To fade out and not just stop like that.
Also, I want to note the other thing is that your composition ends at 13 seconds. And so what happens is if the fade out happens after the 13 seconds, right? If you were to take this composition right here, if you were to take this one and move it over this way, then those keyframes for the fade in and out might be over like off screen this way, right? And so you'll want to just drag this over to make sure that those keyframes aren't like just hidden, tucked away over off your composition, because that can happen, right? Check that to make sure that doesn't work, but it should have worked for you with the fade in and out frames. And if not, just lengthen your comp settings, right? Make it like 25 seconds and then see where it's at there. Let me do this real quick. Let's see if it works. We'll go to effects. We'll type in fade in and out frames. We're going to drag it onto this one. Let's hit U, see if it does anything. Yeah, no, this fades out. So it should have worked for you. So that's what I'm assuming is happening. Is that your composition is going off screen? Because if I drag it now, right? If I drag it and that is off screen, it's gonna go and it's just gonna stop and it's not gonna fade. But if I take this composition, I drag it back so that the entire composition for my impact scene is within the main comp and showing within the main comp, then that fade in and out will actually show, because remember, it's doing it by how many frames you have left, right? So if I wanted this like way more fade out, like let's say 45 frames, right? That's like 2 seconds long. It's going to start fading there. So what I would do if I were you is I would actually just extend the main composition time. I would go to your main comp, I'd hit Control K, and I would lengthen your duration here so that it has everything in it, right? And just make sure that all of your scenes, your other comps, right? Your impact, your bounce, those ones are like a certain amount of time. I think I have mine 8 seconds each. Let me just double check. Go here. Yeah, 8 seconds. So just make sure each is about that. 8 seconds is a good time. And so then, 8 times, you've got 3 scenes, 8 times, 8 seconds times 3 scenes is going to be 24 seconds. So just make sure that your comp is 24 seconds long. Actually, 32, make it 32 because you have your title in there. But the title actually doesn't have to be, make your title only at least like 4 seconds long, right? So then 28 seconds total for your entire comp, your main comp should be perfect, and then you'll be able to hit put all of the other sub comps in there, right? All your scenes. So that's the issue that you're running into right now. And we have Yvette's question.
Hello. So I'm gonna be doing this participation grade for the latest assignment we've done with the principles of design. After doing this assignment, I I got a more of an understanding when it came to the principles, and some of them I didn't even realize were a thing. But it was all really fun to do at the end. As for anything I learned throughout this was mostly everything, honestly. I didn't know how to do any of this. Maybe I did know how to do the bouncing balls. It was somewhat similar to the original assignment in the beginning.
I'm going to pause it right here, Yvette, because I just see a spelling error on principles. I think you just accidentally put an extra. There's an L here. So just remove that in there. It threw me off for a second, but everything looks really good, by the way. Like everything looks nice.
I got a and also doing a little bit of, the bounce squash thing. Anything for difficulty levels, I feel the one thing that I struggled with was the fact that kind of putting it all together, I wasn't able to put it to the size he originally had it at, which was like 12 seconds. I followed everything through, but for some reason, some ended up longer than others, which is fine. I still made it fit in my own way, and I also had an idea of how to do all of the fade for the other assignments. It was very fun to put in the fade in, fade out bit, but that was also a difficulty, is because when I did, it was squash, I had to do the bouncing ball like 3 times, right? And I don't know why, but for some reason, for every bounce, it would do a fade in, fade out, so it would look very choppy and weird. I'm not sure why it did that. I'm assuming because it was just the 3 bounces in there, but or how I copied and pasted it. I'm not sure. But in the end, I ended up fixing it. I forget how I did it. I think what I did.
A good way to fix issues, right, is to work backwards. If all of a sudden you start seeing something odd about your animation, start going backwards and looking through your comps, right? So what do I mean by that? Um, let's say you have everything in your main comp here and you're seeing that fade in issue. The first thing I would do is I would click on this, go through all of these, your layers. You can hold down shift and select them all, and then hit U to see if there's any keyframes, right? Because if there's any stray keyframes, then that can cause like weird issues, especially if they're not intended there. I hit U, there's nothing there, right? So then I'm going to go into I'm going to go into wherever I'm getting the issue, right? You're saying you had it in the ball, the bounce one, or the squash and stretch. No, it was your bounce, I believe. Go into that specific um, composition, select everything, hit U, make sure that the only things that are keyframed are the correct parameters, right? Make sure that you don't have any stray keyframes there. The other thing you need to do is select each layer and then look up into, let me move my camera here. There. You want to look up into make sure there's like no effects going on really weird here, right? Like if there's an effect, that fade effect added on each one of your layers, like if you held down and had all of your layers selected by holding down shift, right? And then you drag an effect to it, it's going to drag an effect onto all of those layers. So you just got to make sure that you don't have like extra effects, extra keyframes lying around somewhere. And then, just kind of work backwards from there. Like, what did I do last? Okay, let me go back. Let me check this again. When did I start to notice this issue? And then go back to there, or just isolate the specific pre-composition where that problem is, and then just essentially you're your own tech team, right? So you gotta just go through in there and essentially just troubleshoot all of the layers and your keyframes. And that's a good way to go through. And that's why things get tedious and weird, and why you have to watch things over and make sure you're not like just putting in keyframes, not watching things back. Watching things back over and over again is going to help
It
you see like
was
this motion's good.
I only put it. Oh yeah, I remember. So I put it in the beginning of the squash of everything, for the word and the bouncing balls all in
Yeah, it
one.
sounds like you put it on multiple layers
In
possibly.
here instead, I think. So, um, for the individually, it was more of a, it was pretty easy to do it. So when I did it here, I did it manually here. I'm not sure. Again, it was kind of a little hard, a little difficult, but ended up pretty good. I was very happy. It was very fun to pick the colors. I liked the impact the most out of all of it. I did like the squish as well. I'm very for like cartoony stuff, so this
Yeah, that
cartoony
exaggerated look.
squash thing, this one, like the one on the left, was very fun. I love how like liquidy it looks. Ugh, I love it. When it's smooth like that, it makes me happy. So yeah, other than that, it was pretty good. I loved it. I like this assignment. It was pretty fun.
Yeah, good job, Yvette.
And
You did
yeah.
good on it. Yeah, everyone has a specific taste that they like, and the more bouncy and essentially the more character that you can give an inanimate object is usually what people really enjoy watching. And so those are, those are just different techniques that we were using, right? You can also combine techniques. Like if you really wanted it exaggerated, you could do the squash and stretch with your scale, but then you can add in there path animations at the same time. And that's what I'm saying, like animation can get just more and more uh complex the more you start adding to objects, and the more motion you start layering together, the more complex it is. And there's also something called doing too much. Um, it's just being able to have an eye and self editing and being like, that doesn't look right. Something there's off. I had this same issue in the past squash and stretches, especially on that ball specifically. And then also having like the keyframes in our last class with the squash and stretch on the dice. In fact, there was something I didn't like about it, and I updated it. And that's something I'll talk to you guys about once we get to that again, either today or next week. And so yeah, it's just like learning to self edit and just kind of learning what looks good and what sells and what doesn't sell. So yeah, good job on that altogether. And we have Angelina.
Start recording. Okay, we'll try this now. For some reason, it wasn't. It was recording, and then it would stop recording. So, um, my question here is, um, I'm working on the type project, and my letters are. I had to manually move them to get them to like be lined up, but Farina had a move them to get them to like be lined up, but Farina had a guide in place where it looked like he could just like have them snap to that guide. And I was just wondering, how could I create that guide, as well as I also feel like my letters look like they are not smooth, and I don't know if that's just the type that I chose and if I should just choose a different type. Thank you if you can help me figure out how to get them to be centered and aligned the way that he had them in his.
Yeah. So there I went over that, I think, on someone else's when we were viewing some of the, let me do this real quick. Let me lengthen that. They're called rulers, and if you hit Control R, it toggles them on and off. Let me type that for you guys so you can see that. Control plus R equals your rulers. And this is the this goes for any composition within inside of After Effects. It also works inside of Illustrator. And I believe it works inside of Photoshop as well. But if you go over here and if you hover over either the horizontal or the vertical rulers over here, because these show up, and you'll see this tiny little, this all of a sudden it turns into this little, oh, it doesn't do that right there. I think you guys can see it. But it turns into these like double arrows, and you just click and drag, and you have a ruler that shows up, and you can do it horizontally, or well, that's vertical ruler, and then you can do a horizontal ruler if you grab from the top. And then as soon as you hit, you can get rid of them by grabbing and dragging back all the way up, or you can grab and drag all the way over, and that gets rid of them. Now, the one thing that you want to make sure that you have, especially when you are using those rulers and you want to snap them into place with your type, is you want to make sure that your anchor points are all in the same section, right? My anchor points are all in the bottom corner of my type. And so you want to make sure that your anchor points are set first. Or actually, these ones, they are not on this one. Let me see here. If though, however, I do that, let me just hit the, let's get the anchor point tool and let's do that. because I don't have these. Let me show you something. Holding down shift, if you click and drag it, holding down shift, it snaps to the vertices, the guides of the actual type, right? Like, or the actual object. Let me move that out of the way and do it again. Select that word. I'm going to grab this, right? Let's say it was centered. If I'm holding down shift, it should snap to these. Holding down shift, it'll snap to like your guides on your type. Now, it also, if you have your rulers set right away, right? That's where you want them. And you move this over, it'll snap to the ruler because I have snapping on. So if you go up to your window and then you go to, where is it at? I'm sorry, under view. If you go under your view tab at the top and you have snap to guides and show guides on, right? You want to make sure that those are both selected and that there's the check mark here and that show rulers is also on. And then it'll snap to those things. And then also, if you guys are wanting to work in a different type of grid, right? Down here, where you can put on your title safe, your action title safe. Say I have that on right now. Let's say I didn't want that. For some reason, I wanted to snap a bunch of other stuff. If you hit grid, it will pop up this like super bright, weird grid. Notice that it is a square, right? It's sectioned off by little squares here. They're a little bit harder to see, but it will snap to these grids as well. And to these little sections within the grid. I recommend not using that. I rarely use that one. It's like only on occasion that I do. I really recommend using your title action safe to see that there's the title action safe has like a little crosshair in the middle, and that's the middle of your composition. And then it shows like your aspect ratios that we talked about, right? Here's 16:9. Here's another 16:9 ratio, and then we start getting into 4:3s, right? I think this is a 4:3 ratio. That third one, this one for sure is a 4:3 ratio. Right there. And so I recommend using the title safe, and then you can either center everything that you want, right? These little notch marks up here on the top and bottom, and then on the side also shows the center vertically and horizontally, right? And then using rulers. So hitting that Control R and then making sure that your anchor points are set first before you go ahead and start doing that kind of stuff. Especially if you're going to move it, right? If you're in this, my title doesn't animate. I have no keyframes on any of this. If I select all my layers and I hit U, there's nothing on it, right? I'm just setting it up as a title. And so that's okay to have your anchor points at that point centered on your layer. But if you're going to move them, right, make sure that your anchor point is set to wherever you want the motion to occur before you start moving it to grids and stuff. Because if you try and do that after, it's just going to cause problems. But yeah, good question. If you have any more questions about that, let me know. Let's go to Juliana.
Okay. So, I didn't realize there was these comments on these. I just looked at them. So if you thought I was ignoring you at any point, I'm sorry. I was not. I was just ignorant. For this one, you asked if I had access to LinkedIn Learning. I do. And then for one of the questions, I did have a different question. I just clicked the wrong video when submitting.
That's okay.
My question was in Cinema 4D. It was like to remove the protection tags, which I later found out I can just hit the delete key.
Yep.
So that's all that. My current.
Let me pause that and just say that you guys are doing a really good job trying to like troubleshoot issues that you're having. And I noticed that through your questions, right? Your participation questions show me that you guys are able to navigate around inside your programs and just kind of figure it out, right? And then if you have questions about that, Googling is the number one thing that I do when I have questions, right? I had last class I was wondering how to shut off the like lines within the viewport, and I found that out. Someone had asked that or mentioned that in their participation questions prior. And so for like last week's question they asked that, and I figured out how to do that, and I was going to talk about that either today or next class. But yeah, like if there's still things I am unaware about that I will still look up, right? And so you guys have done really good job at like troubleshooting your own issues, especially when it comes to something that is seems small and just kind of inconvenient to deal with. And I just want to mention like to the class, like kudos to you guys for um having like a hurdle, right? And then working your way through it. It's not always easy, but you guys are doing good at that.
Question for this week, this video. So he was able to edit like this top section, the one that has a square, without the green one having any movement. But when I try it, this one? Was it this one? Hold on. I'm sorry. I am not as organized as I thought. Also, why am I not seeing anything?
You have an anchor point. I want to point this out to you, Juliana. You have an anchor point keyframe set right here. So if you accidentally move that anchor point, it's going to keyframe something. And so you're just going to want to go in here and just click this like again to shut that keyframe off, because there's just an extra keyframe here and it might cause you issues down the road that you don't want to deal with. So just so you're aware.
Whatever, I don't need to see it. That part. Oh no, it was in the squash. Oh yeah. Don't want to see you. So, with these ones, I could not edit them without the
Right away I can tell it's because you separated dimensions for your position, but you didn't separate the dimensions for the scale. And so how you do that is just unlocking this right here. You don't want them locked at the same. You don't want it linked, right? Because we're changing the X value and Y value separately. And so that they're different. And so you want to unlink that. And you're going to want to re-keyframe all of your scale keyframes, right? You're going to kind of want to do the scale animation part over again, because as soon as you unlink this, it's going to kind of go haywire. So I would just go back to 100, 100 for both of these values for your X and your Y value. And I would shut off your keyframes here, right? Shut these off real quick. Go back to 100, 100. Then I would unlink them and then redo your keyframes for your scale, and then you'll be able to select them separately, because right now they're locked into each other. And so whenever you move one, it's going to move the other. And that's where your
other
issue
one
resides.
coming with it. And I can't press the separate button. So I was wondering.
Yeah, the separate dimensions just doesn't work on that. I tried it last time and it doesn't work. So you want to unlink that
separately. It's like talking point. I know this, or whatever. I like skip a little bit farther to like get to the next like talking point.
Yeah,
so
you missed things.
I could have just skipped over it on accident.
Yeah. So there's also like you guys, if you're
since I couldn't edit this part, I just kind of like gave up right there. I edited where it like started and stopped for that squash, and then
yeah, they're just linked together. You guys can also change the playback speed of the videos that you're viewing, right? So if you're watching one of the YouTube playbacks or my YouTube playback, and you just kind of want to go through it a little bit faster, you can go into the settings and watch it like I would suggest no faster than 1.5 times, because you will start missing things, and it's tedious. And so there's a lot, like rewatching things. I know this is a long class. It's also counted as a lab. So it's like, it's your lecture and your lab all combined. 2.5 hours is long. Believe me, talking this much is tiring. But that's why you really want to dedicate some time to watching, and that's why I suggest like watching the live streams, because you'll get an idea of like what we're doing at that point, and then when you rewatch it, you'll be like, oh, I can just fast forward to here, right? But yeah, and then also what Belle does, because she's a doll, is she goes through and she adds timestamps to the comments of our YouTube videos. And she's been doing that to all of mine so that she can discuss, or that so you guys can go in quickly and just kind of see, hey, I need to start here. Like, let's go into here. All right. Good job, though. All right. We have Bear.
Hello, I'm actually so happy that this week went by as smoothly as it did, just because, like, I had so many issues in the previous assignments, like, so many, um, and I had none this week, so I was really proud of myself.
Good. That's awesome.
I did peep that, I don't know if it was the first week or the second week, we did the squash and stretch drawn out single frames on anime, and I was just like, okay, I did see that we like learned a more easier way to do it on After Effects, which I didn't even know it had that feature on there, which was like, okay, this is really cool.
It's
So I can only
quicker
imagine like
because
how
you don't
much
have to
other
draw the
stuff After Effects
in-betweens,
has
right?
that like where it kind of prevents like you from doing more steps need to be taken, or like using more software needed to than to just do one thing, um, which I thought was like, okay, that's pretty cool. Um, the only thing I'm still like having issues with is just timing, knowing how long the title should sit for before it transitions to the next scene. While doing it, it doesn't seem like it's that short, but then I'm like, sometimes I go back and watch it and like, this is too short. So I'll like try to extend it just a little bit, and then I'm like, this is too long. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I just don't know
It's a
if
lot of
it's
back and forth.
like a set time like for the title to sit, or it's just like me, my own insecurities of not really knowing, and it just doesn't look like it's flowing smoothly. But other than that, I think besides that, that's like my only issue, and everything else is going well.
Good job. I'm happy to hear
Hello,
that, Bear. Um, I'm happy that you had fun in this last assignment. The rule of thumb that I use, right, when it comes to text and how long it should be on screen is if I can read it out loud, then it's on screen long enough, right? So like, and not like motion design principles. You don't want to read it that fast. Like I want to be able to be like motion design principles, right? Being able to read it for that long. Generally, if it's only a few words on screen, like only a few seconds, that is something that a lot of students struggle with. It just takes time to learn to refine it, and learning how long things should be on screen. Once we start adding in audio as well, audio kind of guides that timing. So like if you were to have a voiceover, which is for those of you who don't know what a voiceover is, it's just like a reading, right? Where someone's reading information or something, and then you add that audio file, which is called a voiceover, into your project, and then you animate to it, right? If you're animating with music or voiceovers, it's a good idea to have that in there first thing so that you guys can work out the timing right away, right? You'll edit the audio file and then you work out the timing of it, and then you put it into your After Effects file, and then you animate along with the audio. And so that kind of adds a little bit more of an idea of how long things should be on scene, on like in the scene for. And as far as timing goes, when there's nothing there, right? If it's just music, or nothing in the background, bring someone that doesn't know about animation in to look at your project, a friend, a parent, a kid. Hey, read this, and if they can't read it in time and tell you what it said, then that is generally a rule of thumb that you're like, hey, it's too fast. And if you're sitting there and they can read it, and then if they read it and then there's still a few seconds that go on after that, then you're like, oh, it's way too slow, right? So that's like a good way to just kind of gauge it. Being able to read it out loud is like the rule of thumb, whether it's you or someone else, and at a normal pace and not something like super fast or super slow, right? But you're doing well, and I appreciate the hard work from all of you. Let us go to the next question. I think we only have a couple more. Yeah, Megan.
If we will, when will we learn to like make 3D models in Cinema 4D, like characters and stuff? If we are gonna do that later on.
We're going to make an Eve model, but we don't actually do modeling in this class. Like modeling is it's a whole different thing. It's a lot of work. It's like there's too much to put it into this section. It needs its own dedicated class. And so there is a modeling class that you can take here at GCC for like animation. There's also one that is just like 3D animation, right? So there's a couple different classes that you can take that talks more about that and more like there's one that does have character animation in it, but it is not this class, right? You need to know the basics before you start doing really complex movements. In human anatomy and even worse. So like or even more complex, right? We're called bipeds, two moving like 2 feet. We walk on 2 feet. We're bipeds. Things that walk on four are quadrupeds, right? Like in the more legs you add into things, the harder animation gets because you have to make sure that it's just very complicated. I can't even get into it right now because we'd be sitting here talking. I could easily talk for like 30 to 40 minutes on just that alone. And that's like summing it up, right? So we don't really do modeling in this class. It's focused on animation, keyframe animation, and easing a movement, right? And then as you go further along, that's why this is an introduction to animation. And then as you move further along in the program, you'll get into those classes that delve deeper into modeling and animation in 3D. And here's Nick.
Hello, this is my question. When we made the balls bounce 3 times, what are the other possible ways to replicate that? For instance, I copied and pasted it 3 times. I don't want to do that. What are the other possible ways to do the same thing? You probably can't see me that much because of the camera, but that does not matter. That was it.
I'm unsure with the three balls. I'm unsure of what project you're talking about, Nick. When you have that, bring that project up. When you're asking that question, make sure that the project is up on screen. And that way you can walk through and ask. You duplicating is like the easiest way. Just control copying or control D inside of After Effects is the fastest way to copy and paste like your keyframes or objects, layers, things like that. As far as duplication goes, that's what I'm assuming your question is. If your question like delves further into that, let me listen to it again.
Hello, this is my question. When we made the balls bounce 3 times, what are the other possible ways to replicate that? For instance, I copied and pasted it 3 times. I don't want to do that. What are the other possible ways to do the same thing?
I think you're talking about keyframes, right? You copied and pasted keyframes. Is just moving the playhead and keyframing it, the value, and typing in the value. You can do it that way. If you have more questions on this, go ahead and reach out to me and we can go over like your project a little bit more and you can kind of explain to me where you're having the issue and what you want to change about it or if there is any other techniques because from what I'm understanding is you're talking about copying keyframes to having the bounce happen 3 times or just copying the layer, like having it bounce once and then just copying the layer. That's the quickest way. And animation, like efficiency is key. Time, like the more time you can save, the more valuable you are to a client. And so it's just a shortcut way to do the same motion and have it in there. If that is like, problematic for you, we can talk about it separately and go over, like, we'll go over your project together. We'll try and figure out something with you. But yeah, okay. Good questions this week, guys. Let's see. We're a little short on some questions. We only had 13 technically. And so you guys just want to make sure you're turning those in. But let's go through the real and surreal submissions. I am going to, it looks like we have, cool. People have turned in there's a couple that I don't see MP4s of, right? The deliverables for the Surreal and Real project were the following. Let me type here, Surreal and Real. It doesn't do that. Plus Real. The deliverables were C4D files turned in, right? Zipped up and turned in. And then an MP4. With both of them in there, like I wanted it composited into an MP4 so that you guys, I can just take a look real quick. You guys could share it. I saw you guys sharing them inside of Slack, which was good. That was also the question. So make sure that if you don't have these things, right? If you don't have both the C4D files and or file, like you could have done it in one, but I prefer two, or an MP4, then you guys want to go through and do that again, upload it again. So I am going to look at just the videos today. That's awesome. I see how you combined it into one to being like almost like Inception, right? The real of what's going on, then to the unreal. I think that it would be cool if you possibly, well, first of all, it's trippy and it's really fun. I would change this texture of the background. It's the wallpaper texture. I don't know why it's so weird and glittery, but it does do that. And I think it has to do with the reflection and the lights. So I would maybe just try and change that, because I mean, none of my friends have glittery wallpaper, but if they did, I would be interested in how they got it. Like I would be like, "Whoa, where'd you get this?" It seems really cool. I mean, like, I'm not too bothered by that though. You don't have to change it if you don't want to. I would just say, if anything, maybe add an extra light in somewhere off screen, specifically like over in this section, to just kind of brighten up this area a little bit more. But I do like that. I see the light, like the coming off of the TV. In fact, I would not put the light over here. You can honestly put the light back this way, like off screen that way more, so that it lights up like the back of your television and stuff like that. But it looks pretty cool. I like that. I think it's neat. Let me continue playing it. This is great. This is definitely weird in Surreal at the end, but I would just, if you're going to do it like this, I want you to add some lights here to light this area up, right? It's really dark. There's not like a floor or anything going on, so it's kind of hard to see. I would maybe take these guys, these heads of these guys, and just change like the size, like vary the size of them or the rotation of them, and animate them in some way. Maybe add something else really weird into here, right? Like if these are, remember how we had taken the objects and used the scatter pen to draw them randomly on the screen, or to follow the mouse, right? And then we separate them and put the animations on them, and then we just kind of offset all of that. You could do that. Like these guys could rotate. Their scale could be a little bit different. There could be something else going on in the scene. And then I would just add the lights. But other than that, yeah, it's weird. It's surreal and it works. I like how the TV's flashing in there, but you do need some more lights. That's really the biggest thing is adding those lights in there. So good start on that, Eric. Let me go to Asia. Nice, good job, Asia. Good job on that real one. Good job on the surreal. That looks nice. It looks like you have actually. Let me go back. Yeah, I'm gonna go back to yours, Eric, in a second. But it looks like you have linear keyframe, like your camera movements linear. Doesn't slow down. Maybe it does on the second one. I would check this second one. I don't think so. I don't think your camera movement slows down. I just think your things come to a stop. Continue rotating these off screen. And what I would do is if you want to make the rotation slower, right? Because things kind of rotate awfully fast in this, is I would drag the keyframes out, right? Drag the keyframes out off the timeline, past the timeline, whatever time you have. And then that will extend the time on how many rotations you're getting. Or I would just maybe not rotate it as much. But just do a slight rotation of some of them. Maybe one could be moving faster and the other ones aren't rotating a lot. Let me watch this one again. But it's definitely surreal. These ones kind of, I would not have this object right here. The trumpet is going through the piano. And that is, you don't want that happening when you're rendering something out. Like you can tell the geometry right there unless they're colliding off of each other, which is a whole separate thing. So just make sure that the paths don't cross. Your animation paths don't cross when you're animating the piano and the trumpet. Let me watch the rest of this and just kind of scrub through it. And I would change the texture of either the music note here or the smaller music notes, so that it just differentiates it, because there's just a lot of black on the screen, which isn't a bad thing, but yeah, it looks good. This looks really nice. Your lights are slightly bright. So what I would do is go into your light and turn down the intensity, right? How do we do that? If we are in Cinema 4D and we have let me just add in a target light here. Make sure you guys can see what I'm doing. Target light is added. I've just got it selected. So down here, you guys can see that the light is selected. Let me see. Right here. Just decrease this a little bit and it will change the intensity of those lights. So just drop them down a little bit so they're not super bright in there, because it's overblown, right? It's overexposed in these areas. But other than that, yeah, it looks good. Looks like people are going to have breakfast there. Looks nice. Good camera movement there as well. Good start on that, Asia. Eric, I'm going to check your camera movement. Yeah. Yeah, you messed around with your camera movement a little bit differently because you moved it, right? You stopped all of a sudden here and make a pivot. Or what you did is you stopped, you have two cameras, right? That's always a possibility too. I'm going to say you have one camera where you have like kind of almost like a quick stop and move, almost like it looks like a bounce probably as far as the curves go. It would look very similar to that. Let me see this. No, you've got linear keyframes on your camera, which looks good. Good job on that. All right, Brian. Let's go through Brian's. I don't know, Brian, if you have first of all, the your texture on your wall and your floor look off. And I don't know if that has to do with the tiling, or I don't know if it has to do specifically with the texture that you picked. Sometimes the textures look pixelated, and I will actually show you guys how to change that here once we talk more about the squash and stretch. But the bed looks nice. I would maybe add something over here, right? Or just cut this section of the view out, right? Because there's nothing here. And it looks kind of, it just looks empty, and I don't think you normally wouldn't see that. Or what you could do, right, is rotate. You could always rotate your desk. If you rotated the desk so that it's against the wall here, that'd be a good idea. You could have a bookcase here would be nice, right? Like something else in the room. Maybe add a light in here, but the bed looks nice. I like the messed up pillows and stuff. That's definitely surreal. I like it. I like that you used the cameras for the eyes. That was cool thinking. Um, Also here, right? I think you're using a Target. I think you're using a Target camera, which is, it's not working in your favor because it's rotating the camera at the same time in a really weird way, and we don't want that. Like it kind of goes up. It kind of goes like up and over, which is kind of odd, and we want, and it's your camera is easing. So, make sure that's linear, right? Um and I would also check to make sure that your camera movement isn't linear in your surreal one. But the surreal one's definitely odd. Like you've got some cool things here. You got some scale happening. Now that we kind of learned more about scale, I would make sure that this scales in the appropriate way. I would also add a light onto the scene like further back over here so that you get some of this darkness and the shadow filled in possibly. Or if you have lights over there, let me go back to that. Where is it? To either brighten the intensity or move them closer. I mean, that's definitely some weird stuff going on. I would maybe vary the size as well of the bowling balls right there. And if you can get control of these cameras, like if there's, if you go through the objects right inside of Cinema 4D and you unfurl it and you can just select this area, maybe try like doing a rotation on that, updating where the anchor point is and rotating these a little bit. I think that'd be cool. But yeah, surreal for sure. If you just make those changes for our first revision rounds, that'd be great. Let me go to Zoe. I want you to go ahead and upload an MP4, right? I'll look at these later. Let me actually try and open this one for you. It's got everything in there, right? Struggling to open a little bit. Lots of textures, so it looks like you got something odd going on. I think you might have crashed my system. It happens. It's not your fault. Let's close this one out. No, I don't want to save my changes. Okay, let's look here. All right, yeah. Okay, first of all, I'm going to assume you're having trouble rendering it or it took forever to render because of this texture right here that you have. And then don't forget the more, let me try and zoom out here. Okay. Oh, yeah. That is cool. I'm into it. Very surreal. I don't know, maybe I don't know if you were having trouble with um the keyframing in it. Let me see. You don't have you have a studio light in here. There is no camera. Oh, there is a camera. Let me see here. Let me move back because I was in the camera view and let me just play it. All right, interesting. I would move the camera angle more. Let me see. Down, right? So if I move out of the camera view, and I just move, let me do this, and I move back and over, and let's see, your camera's up there. I would move this camera down. Not the target, but the camera. Move it down. Camera movements get complex, right, guys? So like the easier the movement, the easier it will be. Because you're missing, I like the front view. Let me see what the camera looks like at this moment. I like the front view of it. So I would almost move it here, do a little bit of a I would maybe go this one can be a little, because you have a target camera on it, right? So you can go, you ended up here. I would try and center it and get it into the middle of the frame here. It might be where your target's located too. Let's see where the camera target is. The camera target is looking here at the bottom, and you don't want that, right? You want the camera target to be kind of centered in the, there we go. Let's see now. Let's see if we're to play this now. Yeah, so I would update where your target is. This is why it's cool that I can get a hold of these files, because I can see how you guys are doing these. I would update where your camera target is, right? Like let me move my face here. In fact, I'm just gonna shut this off right now. Sayonara. Let me, as my timing is terrible, so that you guys can see. But I would definitely update the location of your target camera, and then update the camera keyframes in the just like the general movement of it, because the movement's a little weird. And then if I look at these, I would also make sure that everything is, if I select them all, make sure that you go over here and you hit linear, right? Because this linear is what we want, and right now you have curved keyframes, unless that is from what I did. Let me try this. There we go. You don't want any curve there, right? You just want it to be straight lines. So making sure, and this is for everyone, right? This is like the biggest issue that everyone has. Camera movements, linear, not, nope, bad. But okay, cool. Thanks for that, Zoe. Let's look at your other one. Quick here. Lee Griffin. There, it looks like I need your, I'm gonna need your MP4 as well. So let's see here. Let's see that load. While that's loading, I'm gonna go to the next video one. Sarah's. Cool, Sarah. Interesting. Let me see the, all right, we talked about the dinosaur. I think this is really fun. That's funny. I would almost, you know what you could do is, so that it doesn't come through the floor here. Let me do this. So it doesn't come through the floor there. What you could do is you can start it off inside the toilet bowl and make sure that the scale is down, 0, 0, and then animate the scale at the same time that it goes up. And then that'll make it appear like it's coming right out of the toilet bowl. And then I would also just move this toilet over slightly, either this way, or just move the dinosaur over so that his tail isn't going through the lid. But it's definitely weird, and I haven't been invited to a Velociraptor birthday party in a long time, so that's fun. I would extend your let me see this. I like that the guys are jumping and rotating and doing weird stuff. That's funny. Definitely surreal here. As far as this one goes, I would change the texture of the floor, just because of with the render settings that we're doing in the viewport render, it looks really weird. Like the carpet is just it gives like a really weird effect when you render it out. And I noticed the same happens with your guys' keyboards and stuff too. I'm not gonna be super upset if you leave that in, but this is a suggestion. The other thing I would do is I would also update the tiling on your wallpaper, right? The tiling is too small. Oop, let me go back here. The tiling on the wallpaper is too small, and so that's an issue. Also, there's a little bit, I'm not sure what this is, if that's the glass that got moved outside of the picture frame, so I would just check that out too. But this looks really good. Let me check your camera movements. Your camera movement's linear, or not linear, it's eased. So I want you to make sure that that camera movement is linear, right? This one looks good. I would just extend your surreal one out a few seconds because I think your project is total. It's 5 seconds long. Make it 8 to 10 seconds, right? Make it 8 seconds at least, and then give us a little bit more time here so I can see all the oddities that are happening. Definitely cool though. Good job. Good start on that. And let's see if Zoe, your other one, has rendered in. Oof. What I'm going to do is I'm going to close out After Effects. Maybe that'll help. All right. Yeah, I think that we're going to probably have issues for, oh, there we go. Cool. Let me see. Are we in the camera view? We are. Let me check this right away. Let's check your curves. These look linear to me. Let me just select this, all of them. They are linear. Good job on that. Way to go. So let's play it. Let's go back here. The room looks nice. Nice clean room, cleaner looking than mine. I honestly say that when you rendered this out, I don't think that there's really much you have to change about this. I would maybe just drop the intensity down on this light. Let's do a quick render preview. Let's stop this real quick and do a quick render preview and see what it looks like. No, you did a really good job on this, Zoe. Looks good. It looks like the texture of the floor isn't working. I don't know if this is where, Eric, you had an issue. I don't know if your texture was similar to this, and then it just turned out weird. This could have an issue to do with the texture itself, or it could be something with the lighting. So if this is the case, what I would do is either remove the texture and put a new texture in there, or I would try and turn the intensity of my light down, or drop the reflectance of that specific, you like the floor down. It looks like here you have quite a few textures, right? I would go through and I would knock out the textures that you don't need and just go over them and delete them, right? Especially this one. It looks like this one didn't work for you. I'm not quite sure it was there. It looks like you tried to use different wallpapers and stuff right here. Things that didn't work. One thing that you can do, right? And some of these parquets, I know they end up being fuzzy when you try and render it. So what I do here is I go to real quick materials or edit and delete unused materials. And that'll delete anything that's not used in there, and make sure that you delete them off of the layers as well, right? But one thing about this parquet floor, and I think this was an issue in Brian's as well. Let's just throw it on here. And if I hit Command R to do a real quick render preview. That's turning out weird too. It might just be your lights. Let me take that off. Let me take the light. Floor lamp. Let's go into the actual. Let's try and find that screw, the arm, the light itself. Floor lamp. Huh. I'm curious as to where the light is in this. desk lamp. That one's that one on the side. Yeah, there should be like a light in it, which you can turn down the intensity. Your intensity is a little high, so you can turn that down if you want or crank it up. This one though, I'm curious as to where the like actual light is. I'm not sure. Is it in the arm? Under the shade. Okay, here we go. The bulb here. Let's try and drop the intensity of this down because it's at like 150. Let's drop that to like around 80 and check the render preview now. Okay. If you guys aren't running into this issue, let me know. It might have to do with the floor texture then. Let me just go back, change the intensity back up. Turn that reflectance back on. Let's go into the reflectance. Let's turn this down, the reflection strength down. I would pick a different texture. I do not know why it's doing that. I'm going to look into this for you. Let me know if this is an issue for your Zoe. Because if you're seeing the same thing, I want to know if that's a reason you chose not to render it. But let me know if that is an issue that you're running into, that same like kind of sparkly texture, and we'll see. We will see if I'll look into that, right? But we went over Sarah's. Let me go ahead and also Sarah, real quick. I would put in pictures into your frames if you can. I went over that in class. I know you were there with me, so see if you can do that. And then let's see if we can go. I'm going to go through the ones that are rendered out real quick. So Lee, I'll get back to yours. Kaylee's, let's look at yours. Kaylee, we're missing the C4D. Projects. Oh, that's cute. Cute. The dogs. That's fun. One thing I noticed is your cameras and your reel scene are eased. So we want it to be linear, right? And then the other things I'm going to say to you as well is to update the tiling. It's too small there. And then I would update the tiling on the carpet as well there. It looks like you have the lights in. Those look decent. I would see, I think that your picture frame is either turned around backwards, or it is halfway into the wall. So I would maybe change the position of that so you don't run into that issue. But other than that, no, it looks like a good room. The light is bright. I would turn the intensity of your lights down a little bit. Maybe even your lights, like if there's an overall, like you have your target lights and stuff in there, I would turn the intensity of those down. And then I would just maybe add a little bit more into the scene. You see there's no camera movements here, so or just add the camera movement. If you had the camera movement in, that would be fine. The cute little bounce of the dogs. Let me see. Add some more of those tennis balls in. Drop the tennis balls all around. Add something else in with there. Maybe it's like Clifford the big red dog, right? And there's you can make him like a red texture and then a bunch of little people here. For the dog to look at, but very symmetrical, right? There's nothing wrong with that. Good start there though, Kaylee. And then we have Lee. All right, neat. Lee, you actually animated some of your real scene. The make it a room, okay? Because right now it is just like it's just a backdrop, a studio backdrop, and I would like to see like at least 3 walls, right, in the floor. So I would do that. See if you can find some money to put in the safe, yo. Let's make ourselves rich, right? If this is a real scene, let's just put into fruition what we want out of life now. I'm just kidding. That's not all we have to have out of life. But this looks like a good start. I would like to see the walls, throw in a wallpaper, add in a floor or something. And then maybe a different kind of light. The intensity of this light is really high, so I would drop that down. And then camera movement, right? You can keep that chair rotating, but I want to see like a smooth, slow camera movement in here. Nice and weird. Yeah. Implement what we learned this week in the squash and stretch of the dice, right? Implement that. I think that this is overall really bright. I would drop the intensity down as well. And maybe just add some more stuff, like quadruple the amount of balloons that we have going around here. And maybe just have a bunch of them floating at once. The poker chips or the buttons could be, you could just add a bunch more stuff in here. And then, like I said, just drop that intensity down. In this surreal scene, I am okay with you guys having a studio backdrop. Just throw some color in on it, give it a little bit more flavor. But good start on this in general. Camera movement as well. Add some of that in. And then let's go to Nolan's. Ooh, cool, Nolan. Good start. I would extend the length of it's only 4 seconds long, so it's like 2 seconds each. I would make sure each one of the videos is at least 4 seconds long. Your camera's eased, so make sure that that camera's linear, but it overall looks good. So here is the issue. Right back here is the same issue that that I was talking about earlier with the, let me do this, with the texture kind of looking grainy and stuff. So if you are in Cinema 4D, let me get in here. I'll show you guys. I will throw a texture under the ground that I know does this. So let me go up here and type in parquet. The parquet does this. Take that and throw that in my scene. It looks pixelated. And I don't have any lights set up in here, right? But it looks kind of grainy and stuff right there. Let me see here. Let me throw in a light. Let me add a target light. Let me just hit R real quick. Might be a little bright. It's not as bright. Let me turn on shadows. Soft shadow maps. Needs to be closer. I need more light. Let's go back. Kind of up. I'm going to take the target. I want the target to really be on like the die. Move around. I'm not quite sure what I did there. Let me move that. I'm going to select the target in the panel because that's what I should be doing in the first place. And then let's make the target like right on the die because that's what we want. If for some reason though that your, let me just hit render, it needs to be brighter. I need to increase the intensity, bring out the, select the actual light. Has to do with the floor. Let me do this. Right, I'm going to start you guys off not with a plane there. Let's do a studio backdrop. Delete that. We know that works for sure, right? It'll be the quickest and easiest for you guys, especially with this one. Studio backdrop, let's drag it in. All right, here we go. Let's hit R for rotate. I'm going to rotate this like 90 degrees. I'm going to go and select the backdrop itself. Just the whole thing. -90. Okay, that way it's like set up there, right? Now if I go in, zoom in more, I take that parquet from I have it already in my panel, right? I've already brought it into my project. I don't need to drag it in again from there. And then I hit R. let me check and see what this is going on. I think this has to do something with, it has to do with the reflection of the wood. This is what I mean by some things are funny and weird. Let me look into this for you guys, right? And then we'll talk more about this on Tuesday. About why these are ending up, because normally what you would do is it should be showing up properly, but like maybe pixelated a little bit. And what you do is you go into you double click on the material tag, right? And inside of your viewport, you change the preview texture size. And if you change that preview texture size to something like this one right there, right, it'll be in a much higher resolution for you. All of a sudden, right? Let me see. I'm going to drop it down to 1024. That one should be good. It'll probably show up still kind of grainy and stuff, but that's a way to like view it. And I would try and do that with your guys's texture on your walls where you're running into this issue, or it's a tiling issue, right? So update the tiling on that, Nolan. But this looks good. Remember, like I said, linear. That's interesting. I would like to see more of this, right? This is cool. Maybe these buttons right here are rotating like around this way, opposite, right? Or maybe the earth is rotating. So I would just add a little bit more motion into this one. But other than that, this is odd and it's good. Good start on that, Nolan. Amaya. All right, Amaya, I would work on the camera work on this one. It's quite jittery. I'm not quite sure if you're having like issues inside of Cinema 4D. Some of these objects, they are definitely, this is your surreal one, or this is your surreal. This one has to look real, so it looks like you're running into an issue with the, like the real one, like it has to look like a real scene, right? Like these all have to be in order, because right now what you have here are two surreal scenes. So you're going to need to update that, right? This one looks closest to what a real scene would because you have real objects in here, which look like a desk and stuff. Just talk to me or Belle about like what kind of issues you're running into here, and we'll go over this project and see like where we can help. Because the camera movement's kind of odd. This looks like you're just recording your screen as well, and so we want to see camera stuff. So, quite a bit to update in this one. It looks like you're kind of starting with Casey's project as well, so I want to see some more. I want original stuff in there. Just kind of take note of what the other students are showing in their stuff, and then we'll have you redo that and turn that in. Let's see here, Janelle's. That's great, Janelle. Looks awesome. Cool. Yeah, fun. I like the fade happening, right? Linear keyframes. This looks great right there. I would make this a little bit longer, right? I like that. I think that you could add some other kind of lighting if you want to in here to have a little bit more fun with it. But you know what? I think that you have overall like pulled this off really well. This real scene, it looks nice. I would just same thing I was saying earlier. Let's try and change the tiling of the wallpaper there. And maybe see if you can give a floor, like adding a different texture to the floor, because I think this is just like your standard garage shading, which is like the clay kind of look, right? That we see. Oh, apologize. It's a little late. That we see in like your viewport renders. So add a texture there. Maybe get this light turned on here, rotate it a little bit so it's not stabbing the chair. unless it's USB powered and your chair has a USB port, which I have seen. So, if that is your reasoning, which I'm going to say no, but if I gave you an excuse for it, I'll allow it. But good job overall on this. Yeah, great job. Little adjustments there, but I like what I see. Yvette's. Yvette, that looks nice. I would just longer, right? Like maybe add some more, like a couple more things into the room. I think this looks nice. I would just maybe change the floor color so it's not the same color as like your bed and your chairs and stuff and your door. And maybe increase the size of the store here, right? Because it looks a little small for a human that would sleep in this bed specifically. So I would just maybe increase your door size, add a little like turn this light on if you can. I don't know if you're having an issue with the texture, if that's just a black lampshade, but overall good work. Let me see if that camera movement, linear camera movement, you're doing really nice, doing really well on this. I would, I can see that you're, in general, your like color palette is a taupe color palette. So keep the floor if you want. That's cool. That looks, oh yeah, the golf ball, the like odd golf ball, definitely weird. Maybe varying the size of these trumpets and adding them to this side or something like that, or animating, like throw some other animations in here, right? Because so far we just have camera movement moving in, and I think the camera is actually eased on here. I can't quite tell, so double check your camera movement on here to make sure that it isn't. Yes, your camera movement is, because what happens is if I'm looking off to this area like here, right, I can see it coming to a slow stop. What's throwing me off is the movement, like the juxtaposition of your trumpets moving towards the camera while the camera's moving, like they're moving in the same towards each other. And so that's kind of throwing me off, but your camera is actually eased, so you're going to want to make that linear. And then just add some other animations to this, maybe throw in something else, and then I think you'll be good. Good start on that. Let's see, Juliana. Ooh, interesting. Okay, cool. Yeah, timing. Add some more time on here. Let's extend this. In general, you guys, probably like 8 seconds total for both of combined, right? 4 seconds, 4 seconds would be good. I think that's plenty of time. I would update the tiling on here so the tiles aren't so big, right? And same with the floor. I would update the tiling on the floor as well here. But other than that, this looks pretty neat. I would maybe turn down the intensity of your overall light and then see if you can turn this light here on, right? If you can turn that light on, that'd be nice. And then your camera movement, let's check that out. Your camera moves a little fast. So maybe start up here and move down nice and slow to like there, right? Very subtle movements. We don't want super fast movement, right? That doesn't. And your camera is not linear, so we want linear camera movements. Also, see if you can add some images into these pictures. I know I went over that in class, so see if you can do that. And then let's go back here. Sorry about that. Let's go to your surreal scene. I would just in general add some more lights. I know you were trying to add lights to the little bulb things up there, and I think we talked about doing that. So I would do that so that it's not so dark, especially like over in this area over here as well. You want to kind of light that up. So I would add some more lights in. Your camera's easing again. So linear camera movements. I think that's what we can take away from this, from reviewing all this stuff this week. All right. Good job, though. Good start there. Here is bears. Cool. Color palette. Interesting. I actually have a friend who has who has her walls painted purple and orange, and it reminds me of Halloween. Um, I wouldn't say that I would do it, but like, but I like it. I think it's cool. Yeah, you have great stuff in here. It looks like, whoever lives here is moving in. They're just starting to put all their stuff around. I like that you threw in a book here. A lot of attention to detail. I know that you said you enjoyed doing this because it was like Sims, right? Let me see here. Your camera movement is really chunky, and I'm not quite sure why, but it is eased. So we want linear camera movements. And I'm gonna put like a review here at the end, especially with these surreal and real ones. Yeah, adding picture frames in. I'll look into this issue that you guys have been having about adding like windows and stuff. Because maybe what you could do is just add an image behind there on a plane, right? That'd be cool. Look at the rest of that. Sorry, Bear. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what's going on with the camera and if it's just something that happened when you were rendering. It might be skipping a frame too. Like if you rendered it out where it's like every other frame, it might be doing that. So I would make sure it's on all frames. This is definitely weird and definitely surreal, so I'm all for it. Extend this one. Let me see, when does it start? It starts here. 7 seconds in. No, you got good timing on that. Interesting stuff. I'm cool with that. Let me see. I'm sure it took a long time to render because you have more instances. I don't see any eased. It looks like linear camera movement to me in this. Yeah, good job overall. I would just make some changes here to your real scene. But in general, great job. Megan's. All right, Megan. The first thing that I'm going to say, camera movement, we don't want it all really crazy right now. Just a real slow movement. I know that Eric had his in there because his was combined with his surreal scene, and his camera movement was appropriate. But this is a little bit of a chaotic move. So I would just what I would do is pull the camera view out, right? So it's not so zoomed in here. I want to see a full shot, and just a nice slow pan from either left to right or right to left, either way. And then I would also, I keep hitting escape on accident. You need to update the tiling in here so that the texture looks normal. Because right now it is too grainy. But other than that, yeah, I would like to see the entire scene. It looks like that's a shower curtain there. So, and then here we have a reflection of like, there's a reflection of a world inside of this. And so I'll show you guys how to, if you can see, you can almost see like the grass there and the gravel and the ground inside of the reflection. So I'll show you guys how to change that kind of stuff later, but I keep doing that. I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. But yeah, the first things I would do is the tiling of there, add a texture to the floor, and then I want to see the entire scene and not just sections. And I just want like a nice easy pan movement where your camera's linear, but just going from one side to the other, right? This one's definitely odd, really cool. Did you do your butterfly wing flaps? That's neat. I'm not sure if it had like an auto. I like how you tore apart your discs, and these are like fish. That's got me tickled. That is really funny. I really enjoy this. I think you did a really good job in your surreal scene. I would check the texture on the floor and just see if it's like needs something that needs to be tiled. Definitely bizarre. I would also, the other thing I would do is just make sure that this stop sign up here doesn't run into the wall, because that's what I'm seeing is it just kind of cuts into the wall there. But yeah, good start. Mostly work on the real scene, and then the surreal one looks pretty good. And then we have Nick. Cool, Nick. All right. yeah, I mean, this looks like I'm digging this thing. I would add, like I said with Lee's, I want to see like a room, right? So I want to see walls. Uh, here, let me do this. Here, I want to see wall and floor, and then I want to see different textures on them. Because right now you're just using the studio backdrop. And in the surreal scene, that's okay, but I want it to look real. I want it to kind of look like maybe if you can even find a shop, right? You could do a concrete floor and just like a plain, like wallpapered white wall, right? Right, that would be fine. The texture on the car isn't really working. I don't think that's the texture it came with. I would maybe stick with the texture that was already on the van. And but other than that, this is also like I would remove this if this is your real scene, right? This one looks like your real scene. So I would maybe move this um back against a wall. I would, make it look more realistic because right now this looks more surrealism. And we need one real scene and one surrealistic scene. The camera movement is eased, and so I want to see linear camera. Actually, no. I don't believe it is. Let me play it again. I don't think so, but I would double check that. And this looks neat. I would just add a little bit more into here, right? Maybe change the backdrop so it's not white, but this looks cool. Your surreal one, I'm going to assume this one was more of the surreal. Either one, right? If you want either one, the surreal or real, but I need to have a real scene in here. That's funny. This has me giggling inside. The party hat has a party hat. I'm not quite sure what this is, but I want to know what that is too now. But that's funny, Nick. I like it. I like where you're starting with it. I would just update those things and yeah. Good start though. All right, and then we finally have, I think I didn't get to Janelle, I got to Yvette's we saw. Maya we saw Nolan's. Nolan, making sure, okay, you guys, let's do a review real quick. Let's do Lee's. Let's open Lee's real scene. I'll close mine out. We're gonna go over the like I said, we're gonna go over the principles of motion design, the C4D, when we're gonna go through that next week. Again. Close that one out. No, let's not save it. All right, cool. You got your camera. Let me play it. Neat. It's taking a little long. I would just cut it short a little bit. Let me see your curve of your camera. Nice, linear. Good. I like that. I like that. Looks good. Overall, I would maybe just add a couple more things into your scene, right? Maybe tile this carpet down a little bit because the carpet's it looks I mean that's if you want to. The pattern's a little large. So I would scale it down if you can, but other than that, it looks good. I like that your apples are in this. Is this like was this let me do this. Was it in these? Like I'm curious if it was in uh this little case already or if it was just something you did. But I'd like to know. Looks good. Good start on that. Let's see, Lee. Let's go to your other one. I don't see anything in here. Let me see if it's pulled out. Are we in a camera view? No. Let me go into your camera view. Okay, there we go. Let's play this. Yeah, nice and weird. I like it. I like your basketball inside of the dice. That's cool. I would just maybe add a few more things, but you do need camera motion in here, right? Add the camera movement and then just render this out and composite them in Cinema 4D and render it out as one MP4, and then you are good. But in general class, like the biggest thing I saw in everyone's in a lot of your guys' stuff is like we saw easing on the camera movement, right? So we want, let's do this, surreal and real tips. Linear camera movement. All right? And then tile your textures. And then let me think here. If the material doesn't work, pick another. Let's see. Make sure the linear camera movement, this one right here is the biggest one, really. And just, yeah, just building, and I want to see both Cinema 4D files submit and MP4. One MP4 submitted. Just make sure you guys are doing all of this stuff, and then, you know, you should be good. Everyone so far has some really good material. I think you guys had a little bit more fun with this one. It did feel very Sims-like, right? Because you kind of get to, just like you get to build a room out, which is really fun. And do a little bit of design work there. But yeah, good job overall, you guys. So for next class, let's go ahead and go over this, right? I just want to make it clear what we're going to be doing here coming up. Next class, we're going over principles in C4D, right? Today was more of a review, right? In questions. I need to catch you guys up, and I wanted to go over this. I also am going to going over your principles. Next class, we're going to go over your principles, emotion, 2D, right? And then we're going to, really, it's going to be mostly working over the principles in Cinema 4D. So I'm going to update the deadline for that because today was more of like a critique night, right? Which is fine. You guys need those, and you need to be able to see what each other are doing so that you guys can understand kind of like, you know, first of all, you get ideas from your classmates, and second of all, you understand a little bit more of how like what I'm looking for, right? When I critique this stuff, let me bring myself back on camera. When I critique your stuff in class live, it's like super important to be able to understand kind of what I'm looking for, right? You're going to see through other people's work, maybe where we could improve on everyone's, and where everyone kind of is struggling in the same way, right? We're all having the issues with the linear keyframe, or not having linear keyframes for the camera. So we want to make sure that. But next week, we're going to really buckle down on the principles of motion design for Cinema 4D. I'm going to update the title of this live stream, so it's just to make you guys aware that we're doing like more of a review. And then I'm going to look up kind of where those textures, right, with those kind of glittery wallpaper and floor parquet textures, are where that's happening. I'm going to look a little bit more into that and try and figure that out. But in the meantime, if you guys don't want to deal with that, just pick a different texture, right? Pick a different material and throw that in there. And then next week we'll catch up on this. So I'm going to update the deadline for it. So you guys technically have a little bit more time this week to more or less fix your update the projects that you have feedback on, or get things turned in that aren't turned in, right? And if you guys need help, I really encourage you to use Bell or to call me or to like write me, right? I can help as well. I do have time. I don't not have time to do it. This is what I dedicate specific time to you guys. And so if you guys want like a one-on-one session with me where we have a quick Zoom call and we can go over like issues that you're having, set up a just go ahead and set up a time inside of Google. Let me see here. Where was it? In the syllabus specifically, I have a link to a Google Meet calendar, right? That you guys can request like a time and I'll let you know if it's good or not, because like I said, I do work during the day and I have meetings as well during my day. So I'll let you guys know if it works. But if it doesn't work, like, right, we'll pick a different time and get into that, because right now you guys should be really all pretty much caught up with stuff, not be too far behind, and yeah. Everyone's doing pretty good though overall. I like to see the work that you guys are doing. I hope you guys are having fun. Let me know any other questions that you have, and we will talk on Tuesday. Have a good weekend, guys.